It's so important that we make sure that we expose all these young folks. We also want them to have the ability to understand all about our community as well. So understanding where they can live when they're ready to raise a family and be deep rooted here. So we've got this incredible opportunity to continue to do that. And as we talk about issues as growth and figuring out solutions, everything from parking to housing in the future, we can't take our eye off the ball that we have all this talent right here, and we want to make sure they stay here. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Peyton to go over some housekeeping items as we move forward.
Hey y'all, I will be brief and move on, but as the mayor said, the Talent and Retention Fair is coming up. The big things you need to know is there's 2 registrations. One for vendors, so your institutions, your businesses, or maybe your partners at your college or university are welcome to sign up. We are halfway full of local vendors. We have 75 spots and we're already half full. So make sure to pass that along. In the same way for attendees, unlimited, they can register in advance or just show up. We just ask that you be a partner in spreading the word. So some universities, we've already gotten calls from their students. They're excited about it. And just share that it's not just internships, it's also entry-level positions. And unlike other fairs, some of the feedback we got is that sometimes our local businesses show up and they're not hiring. And so we've made it a requirement that they submit their open positions for college students or entry-level professionals so that this is proactive and that this is turning into outcomes, not just marks. So on your table, you will have a flyer. It has a QR code that goes to that registration link. The Columbia Chamber of Commerce has been a partner in that and is kind of handling that onboarding for us. So please share and spread, and we'll report back how it goes because this has become a more annual thing. Last meeting, we brought up a couple of exciting things, one being shared interest in a faculty immersion program. So what that looked like is we had CORE come talk about Crash Course Columbia, and some of us, that was the first time we'd heard about their efforts in working Columbia, and they were talking about students, young professionals, and this group brought up the need for maybe even faculty at some of our higher ed institutions. And so happy to get the ball rolling on that. I just wanted to mark that was something we talked about, have not done too much follow-up on, as well as we talked about each university and college's master plans for the future and the potential to have some sort of sharing session on that to make sure we're all aligning, we're not working in silos. And so now that we have Madeline on our team who introduced us, we'll do a little more administrative follow-up to gauge interest in making both of those ideas come to life with this group, but just wanted to highlight that we did take those down and those are items for next steps as we continue through this. With that, I also want to highlight our last session due to technical difficulties was not recorded. The biggest deliverable from this committee is showing the public that we are communicating, we aren't working in silos, and we want to work together to make Columbia one of the best places to live, work, but also go to school as a student. So we are recording today, and this will be posted for minutes as well. And please let us know if you need a link to follow up with it, because that will be our big deliverable. And with that, I will kick it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Peyton. Next, we'll be stepping into the public transportation. First, we will have Mr. Maurice Pearl, the Executive Director of Comet, presenting forward. Then we'll follow that up with our own parking guru, Ms. Matney from Columbia Parking. And then after that, we'll have the student perspective on parking. So it should be a great discussion as we continue to move forward. And then we'll go from there. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Pearl.
Hello, everyone. I'm the precursor.
So I'm sure all of you have seen our colorful buses around Columbia. But what you may not have known is that the COMET, Central Midlands Regional Transit Authority, is its own independent authority that operates under the Central Midlands Council of Governments. In April of 2000, we entered into an intergovernmental agreement signed by Richland County, City of Columbia, City of Forest Acres, and Lexington County to fund, operate, and maintain public transportation in the Central Midlands area. Presently, We operate services on 47 fixed routes, about 97, 98 buses, and we serve upwards of 2 million passenger rides per year. I am going to turn it over to our Executive Director and CEO, Maurice Pearl, who has been with us since November of 23. And he will talk about where we are and where we're going.
Thank you, Pam. Appreciate that. We've come a long way since 2012, and this presentation that is going to be shown today talks about that, where we've come, how far we've come, and then how far we plan on going for the future, or what our future holds. So our miles traveled has increased 39%. Not all of that has to play. It looks like it has to play on here.
It's moving. It's moving. Maurice, it's moving. But I think you have to.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. There's our bus. Complete with exhaust. So yes, 1.6 million miles 2012 to 2.3 million miles in 2023. So that's our most up-to-date information. And then we had in 2012 18 routes, and is it just slow going here? Apologize for that. There we go. So the numbers keep on ticking up. So since 2012, we've added almost 30 new routes to our service. And this just encompasses so many different areas throughout our community that it's just very beneficial. And our service has seen that increase. You increase the service, and then more ridership comes with that. So then we get to passenger amenities. We've had a short number of shelters and benches. So now we have 160 bus shelters and 196 benches throughout the community. So with the number of shelters that we have, it depends a lot on the location. So if we have just a few passengers, it's difficult for us to put the infrastructure in just for a few passengers. I know it's not, it doesn't sound very good, but we have to, the cost to implement and put this infrastructure in is significant. So we have to have limits on how and when we put the infrastructure in. But the Common has done a phenomenal job over the years since 2012 of putting more infrastructure in. So along with the routes comes buses. So we added more buses to our fleet to accommodate the increase in service. And it's dependent on the Wi-Fi, so we stop every now and then, dropping off passengers, picking them up to 29 buses. So adding 29 buses to our fleet from 68 in 2012 to 97 in 2023. So then ridership. We talked a little about ridership just a little bit ago. With increasing the service, increasing the frequency, adding passenger amenities, our ridership has increased 35% since 2012, from 1.4 million and then just below 2 million in 2023. That number keeps on increasing. It's our community service that we have. We provide service on the University of South Carolina to Columbia College and Allen University. It's just, we really cover Columbia really well. There's a lot more to do, there's a lot more that we can do, and we are going to get to that here in just a minute. So where do we go? What do we do? We provide access to our ridership to work, to grocery stores, to healthcare facilities, to college, to wherever you want to go throughout the community. That's where we go, that's what we do. And then that's for a fixed route service. We also have a complimentary service, and that is called our DART ridership. That's our DART service. So in 2012, we had 13 vehicles and provided just under 60,000 trips. 2023, that increased to 23 vehicles and just under 90,000 trips. So that segment of the community keeps on increasing as elderly passengers know more about the service, so that service increases. And we're looking at adding a couple of more vehicles in the coming years to complement that service as well. So these are some of the programs that we offer, programs and services. So we have Comet on the Go. We talked a little briefly about DART, or reflex services on the outskirts of the community. So we outside of our fixed route. The V-Trip is our volunteer transportation reimbursement program. Van Pool is, we work with Enterprise on that, and if anybody's going to a work site or wherever, and there are several riders, then we work with Enterprise in order to get them there through somebody driving that works there. Pickup program, and then we had the Don't Miss Your Shot program that went over very well. So we talked a little bit about universities and colleges that, and as well as high schools and grade schools, middle schools that we go to. So here we service all of this throughout the community. So healthcare is very important. If you don't have access to healthcare, other things happen, and so that's one of the things. We have DART going to healthcare, we have our fixed route service going to healthcare, and these are the areas that we service.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And also I'd like to add that those that you saw up there, those are the entities that we have partnerships with. We're very happy to have one with Columbia College, as well as Midlands Tech and University of South Carolina, where we run USC Transit.
Yeah, very, very good partners, and it really helps. Thank you, Pam, for acknowledging that. It's very important to our transit system, to the community, that we have that partnership with the entities. So our federal match, when we procure vehicles and when we have other items that we need to replace, whether that's in maintenance or services, it's 80-20. So 80% is covered by the federal government, and this isn't for everything. This is limited on what we have that we can get reimbursement back from our federal grants, but it's an 80-20 match. And then, of course, our finance department does an excellent job in their financial management for the past 5-6 years, and then we just had, for 2023, they had the Distinguished Budget Award as well. So we're keeping very good record of that and doing very well with that. So that's the end of that. So what we're what we're looking at with, as everybody knows, that we were very fortunate with the Penny passage, and I know we had some great advocates out there, and definitely Mayor, thank you for your advocacy and everybody else that advocated for that, and it passed with a 61%, and that keeps public transit going for the next 25 years. And then it also allows us to expand. So one of the first things that we're going to be doing is when we're going to be laying the groundwork now for our first priority is going to be Lower Richland area. That's an underserved area. We have one bus out there that's a 2-hour bus, and it doesn't cover the whole area, and we want to make sure that we take care of the whole Midlands area region, and that's our first priority. So we're going to be putting microtransit service out there. Microtransit service is like an Uber or a Lyft will have an app, and if they don't have a smartphone, then they can call, or we'll have a couple of different options to where they can get service to their door and then dropped off wherever they're going. So that's our first priority. And then as we're going through all of this, we're also looking at intermodal facility of changing our site. So it'll still be in the downtown area, but we're still going through that, still reviewing on where that is and what that looks like. So that's in the progress as well. And then we have our 01 routes that we're looking, that we discussed when we were talking about the Penny, and increasing the frequency on our 01 routes. So our 01 routes go throughout the community from Farrell Road to Harbison over to here to Columbia College, and those are our main service trunks, and that's what we want to increase the service on. And we increase the service, we increase our ridership. So all of these are being done in phases. So we have our phase 1, which is going to be Lower Richland. Phase 2 will be our 01 routes. And Pam, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to comment that, for instance, the 101 actually serves Columbia College, so that would be one of the routes that will have increased frequency on the 101. So 101, so the 01 routes, to add to what Mr. Pearl was saying, we look at those as like our main arteries. They hit the main corridors, whether it's Forest Drive, whether it's Divine Street, whether it's North Main, whether it's going Broad River Road, those are the 01 routes.
So how all this began is when I got here, the task was, we need to pass the Penny. So what projects would you, based on your experience, that was my challenge from the board, what is in your experience, what do we need to do to help increase the promotion of public transit in the community? So these are the things that, listening to staff, Lower Richland needs to be taken care of. Okay, everybody, I come into a community, I listen to people that I work with and what the priorities are in the community. So Lower Richland was our first priority, and then based on past experience of going through comprehensive operational analyses in public transit and other communities, it is increasing your main arterial service, your highest ridership, and then expanding out from there, because we don't want to have an expansion of service and then you come into your core or your core service area and it's infrequent service. It just doesn't promote public transit. So we're going to do those two, the Lower Richland, and then the increase in service on the 01 routes, and then it's going to have a community connectivity. So all the way from Lower Richland, all the way up to Blythewood. We have Scout Motors coming in 2027, so we need to be prepared for that as well, to bring employees up to Scout. So that'll be part of the phase-in of increasing our service. So we had a lot going on, we've got a lot that's coming up, and as I said, we're going to phase in all of this. So we'll do Lower Richland first, we'll put microtransit in there, and then we'll monitor that, make sure that's going well, then we'll move on to our other services that we're going to implement. So with that, I appreciate everybody listening about public transit, so thank you.
With that, I'm going to pass the microphone on to Elle.
We'll get to the good stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, we hope.
It's good stuff. Thank you, sir. I'm going to step up right behind the podium. I didn't pack those wonderful slides in that moving bus. I'm not sure I could have met that match. Again, good morning. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to talk about one of my favorite things, parking, and especially here in Columbia. I'll kick it off asking a question. Is anyone unaware in the room of what's taking place March 1st in Columbia related to parking? Anyone not know what's coming? Great stuff. We acquired WGI, an outfit out of Charlotte, and we underwent a rate study. Columbia has not raised rates here in the city in many, many years. I've been here nearly 9. Don't recall the last time we raised rates since paid parking began. We underwent the rate study, and with the support of city leadership, city manager, we approved rates to change effective March 1st back in December. So let me back up a moment. The intent of our rate study was to assess the current parking rate and operations compared to the recommendations that were given to the city by a parking master plan back in 2015. It provided recommendations for current rates and operations for the entire parking system. Cities included with the analysis were Greenville, Charleston, Richmond, Raleigh, Savannah. Parking provides services that are crucial for the city's hospitality, business districts, residential areas, offering both monthly and daily parking options to support the local economic activities and special events here in Columbia. Research shows that parking can significantly impact how customers perceive and interact with the place that they're visiting. We've always heard first and last impressions. Often that book starts and stops right with parking. This is due to parking, typically that first encounter, whether it's a grocery store, it's a hotel, maybe it's a neighbor, you're visiting family, it crosses over into our residential districts. A positive parking experience can set the tone for a pleasant and productive visit, while negative parking experiences can cause frustration, stress, and satisfaction, and lots of calls to the parking services office. Reinvestment into the parking system with the goal of directly impacting Columbia's parking experience along with branding. And branding is establishing how parking services presents itself to our parkers. Columbia's target parker and what they need from us. Parking services and what service we provide. Ongoing events in Columbia that might affect parkers' choices, such as competition and public perception. Let me ask a couple of questions. On a monthly basis, what might you think would be the number of passport transactions on an average month? Those that are visiting Columbia and paying via our passport app, how many transactions do we average a month? Any guess?
150,000?
I like that number. 70,000. Passport parking is now 72% of our on-street revenue. So even though we have just over 4,000 meters on street,
we're seeing a trend, and it started back when COVID occurred, the pandemic, and everything's going touchless, cashless, that folks now are highly utilizing Passport more than they ever have. And Passport also, in partnership with USC, is very popular over on campus. So it's easy for that genre of students. They can come over to the city and use Passport, or they can be over on campus and utilize Passport. Would anyone have a guess as to how many Passport spaces there are within the city? And that is Passport only, not, again, any parking space you can pay with Passport, has a sticker on the meter. But we have just over 1,400 Passport-only spaces in addition to 3,600 meters. We have 11 parking decks that we serve throughout Columbia, 14 surface lots, and we average 29 monthly events in the city. Lots of activity at the convention center, CLA, lots of venues that we serve parking for. Any questions thus far? Let's jump into the rate increases and what that does for the parking system. We are very fortunate that we have partnered with public relations, again, city leadership, our media outlets, including WIS-TV, to help get the word out, because we want to communicate and ensure the public is informed and is aware of what's happening so that no one's caught by surprise. Going out, knocking on doors with our merchants in all of our areas, whether you're 5 Points Vista or the Main Street, keeping folks informed has been and will continue to be a focus for 2025. We don't want folks to say, hey, I didn't know that, I wasn't aware. PR has done a wonderful job of updating the Parking Services website. If you have any questions with regards to the specific rates, you can find all of that information on the parking website. With those rates being raised, Parking Services operates as an enterprise fund within the city. So those increases, whether it's on-street rates, citation, monthly parking, all of those increases, revenue generated, is reinvested right back into the parking system. So, for example, that assists with our CIP projects. One project that you'll see prior to March 1st is the removal of the meters along Main Street. We're real excited. T2 Cosmo, pay-on-foot stations. You've been to other cities, you've seen them. They'll be coming along. There'll be 2 on each block of 7 blocks of Main Street, and the meters will be removed. I know there are folks in the room really excited about that, as we are, and I think it will improve the Parker experience. It will continue to allow us facility upgrades to our parking facility, security cameras, lighting. We're going to gravitate to, in the next 24 months, a gateless LPR cloud-based solution. So it's very innovative in the technology realm of the parking industry at the moment, and we're excited to be moving in that direction. We just had a conversation yesterday with USC about some of the technologies that they'll be implementing in the next few months, and also synergy between what may work for the city as well as the university. We are expanding our EV charging system. As you know, EV vehicles are trending upwards, and we want to find ourselves in alignment with that. We're gravitating to and implement an online permitting program. So you won't necessarily need to come into the parking office. You'll be able to acquire permits right online. And that's in conjunction with the cloud-based LPR, and that is license plate recognition for any in the room that may not know. Any questions thus far? I'm going to jump over and highlight a few of the changes that will take place on March 1st. There's a number of things I'm excited about. In the parking decks, the first hour will be free. So you can pull in, and if you're out under an hour, that ticket will vindicate, and you're out at no charge if you're there less than an hour. The on-street meter rates will increase from 75 cents to 150. We appreciate the partnership of PR and our media outlets. There has been miscommunication, I think, through this process since December. And again, driving everyone to either contact the parking services office or go to our website. So some of the confusion was hours of enforcement. So the hours of enforcement will be 9 to 7. We're extending an hour. We're currently 6 p.m. and we'll be enforcing until 7, Monday through Friday. We will enforce as we currently do over in 5 Points from 9 until 7 on Saturdays. Absolutely no enforcement anywhere throughout the city on Sundays. So that was something that we tackled a few weeks ago, that there was, and I bet I know what you're going to ask, that we would be enforcing in our business districts on Sundays. Absolutely untrue. If you're in a residential district that has been approved by ordinance and your hours of enforcement include 7 days a week, 24 hours, that does not change. But the conception that we're going to enforce on Sundays in the merchant districts is false. And again, there is no enforcement in the Main Street District nor Vista on Saturdays, only in 5 Points. Yes, ma'am.
So my first question, can you again repeat 5 Points, for example? What are the new, I had 2 questions around 5 Points. What is the stipulation now?
So the only thing that changed with 5 Points is the extension from 6 p.m. to 7. We currently enforce Monday through Saturday in 5 Points. That will not change, only the hours of enforcement. And let me correct myself, we currently enforce starting at 11, that will change to 7. So to be consistent throughout the city, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, all districts. 5 Points on Saturday will be 9 a.m. until 7 p.m.
And what was the rationale for that? Again,
The request from 5 Points.
from the
They're worried about people just parking and staying there all day, especially game day weekends and others, people going to basketball games, so there's no turnover. Now, remember, there are 300 free parking spots currently in 5 Points at the Divine Street building.
Those are privately owned.
No, we own that. 221 Divine, yep. There's 300 spaces there currently, free 7 days a week for people to utilize if they'll just walk a half a block.
Yeah, okay.
So,
But, we're taking me to my last question. So I was in Charleston yesterday, down on Bay, and in order for us to park, they had these particular meters. You have to have a bank account, you have to have a car, you have to have a means so that when it gives you instruction, you have to have a phone that will allow you to go through their process. And are these the same kind of meters we're putting in place here as they do in Charleston? I was thinking from a class perspective, if you do not have a bank account with a debit card or a credit card, you don't have a smartphone that allows you to take a photograph or to scan the QR, you can't park there, not without being penalized. So I'm trying to find out.
Not sure what machines they have in Charleston. I can tell you what we're going to have, and again, it's only along 7 blocks of Main Street currently. Those Cosmos will accept credit card and also Passport. So Passport also offers the option of text to pay. The scan to pay QR code is coming soon. But if you go to if you want to park along Main Street, you can utilize the mobile option of Passport, or you can go to one of these pay stations and utilize a credit card. The side streets, if you will, if you're on Main Street and you go over to Assembly, Sumter, the interchange streets, Currently, those are all gonna remain metered, so you'll have the ability to pay with coin. I think the long-term plan for the city is to gravitate towards dynamic pricing, so that, yes, some blocks will become free, and that maybe are not today, if you're willing to walk a couple of blocks. And then the pricing, depending on the time of day or event, may change if you want to park right in front of a business. If you want to park on Main Street, maybe that rate will be different between 11 and 2, but if you go over to Sumter, it may be $1 or free. So that's a long-term, range plan that we have, so I'm not quite sure if that's what Charleston offers, but you'll still have those meters for a good minute here in
Well,
Columbia.
and let me just say, I don't have a criticism of the changes or, things have to change. I'm just, again, wondering if whatever the ultimate plan is down the road, is it inclusive of all people? Whether it's a mixed model where at some point there are still some selected spaces for people who don't have bank accounts and credit cards and debit cards and ability to scan.
Yes, ma'am.
The majority may be the new innovation, but will there be any, I'm not asking for a response, I'm just saying, will there
Yeah, I
be an inclusive model where?
Maybe. Let me give a response to that to help Elle out a little bit. So as we were going and unveiling this system and lots of really good feedback back and forth with the community at the council meetings, exactly what you're talking about did come up. And one of the things that I keep using the term aspire to be the city, that everyone wants walkability and all the things and the retail aspect, and we're getting there. It's not gonna feel like it just yet, but we can't stay where we are if we want to get to that place. And so we all understand that, but we also understand that we have elderly residents, we have people that, to your point, may not have the same means as others, nor even
College students.
choose to use technology, right, in the way that we're describing. And so we were trying to, as we, like some gestures, we gave out some of our smart cards that could be loaded, preloaded, like if you come to the Parking Services Division and get the parking services staff to load a smart card that can hopefully also work, which they work now with our current meters with the new infrastructure, L. You can then talk about the transitional period we have to go to get new smart cards that will also work with the new infrastructure. So to your point, if there's an individual who just is really not going to want to use these newfangled things, we've got to also work with our citizens, family members, getting things for elderly citizens who are still traveling to get them the smart cards they're needing, or whatever other alternatives we can come up with to address, I think, what you're talking about. We've also talk about the tokens or the codes that we gave out for Passport to help people to walk with us, walk our way into doing this, but offering a few gestures to get people started and used to using these additional resources.
Thank you, ma'am. So we currently, someone in the room may have, it's a smart card. It's a white card, it looks like a credit card, and you can get money loaded on it in the parking services office, and it currently can be utilized at any on-street meter. The new Cosmos, the platforms don't integrate, so we're working on getting smart cards that can be utilized at the new Cosmos. But if you currently have a smart card, you can continue to use it at parking meters. So again, if someone only has cash, they don't have bank accounts and such, they can come to the office and acquire one of the smart cards, put $5 on it, $10, and utilize it at the meters. You insert it and it will tell you how much time that you're paying for. And we're working on getting these smart cards that will integrate with the new Cosmos.
So, you came to our neighborhood association meeting. One of the things I think would help since it's moved forward is if there's like a fact sheet or something that we could take back into our neighborhood associations at our monthly meeting and say it was voted on, this is what it's gonna look like coming up, and we could prepare them for the change, because some of them, so we don't have to keep explaining it, you don't have to keep coming, but we can literally walk them through with a fact sheet what is getting ready to happen, especially seniors. You know, we have the high-rise people from there come to our meetings.
Arrington.
And I know, Elle, you're gonna talk about, real quickly, because I know there's more to talk about today, but I think for the college community, understanding the workforce type, monthly part.
Absolutely. I just haven't gotten there yet, and we enjoy coming out, and that's again another focus for 2025 is to continue to come out to those neighborhood meetings. We can get you the fact sheet, but we want to be there and present for such questions. You know, it may not be something that impacts your particular residential area, but you may be coming over to Columbia to have dinner, or, you know, we want you best informed. So we're going to continue to come out to your meetings. We enjoy it. So
President Dozier had a comment or question.
Yes.
Actually, just a comment, I'm really appreciating the need for us to have good communication, but I'm also really deeply appreciative of the city of Columbia, because this is, usually there's a lot of regressive taxation going on. This is progressive. And I certainly appreciate you finding ways that will have, ways of getting income into the city that has a disproportionately negative impact on those who are wealthy than those who are less wealthy. And I think that it's important to note that this aligns with all of the investment that you're making in comment, because the other thing I think about is pushing more people to use public transportation to get across our city. So I'm certainly appreciative of what's going on with that.
Thank you, sir. To my understanding, and comment can confirm, I believe Comment utilizes the Passport app. So I don't utilize Passport in that capacity myself, but if I recall correctly, riders can pay through Passport when they ride the Comment. Is that accurate? I believe so. We need to find that out. So, you know, if they're utilizing, we'll check. Let's look into that. And again, maybe something else that we could promote.
Yeah, definitely.
So again, I had mentioned the first hour free in all of our parking facilities. We spoke of the new hours of enforcement, no increased enforcement on Saturdays in the Main Street and the Vista districts, continuing only in the 5 points. Parking services, it's been just over 7 years. We have a hospitality roof rate. We recognize that there are students, young people, old, that are in the hospitality workforce, and they may not be able to afford the standard unreserved monthly rate in some of our facilities. So Parking Services has been working closely with PR to make sure that we're pushing out. You can park on the roof in the hospitality district at any of the city facilities for $35 a month. That rate did not change. It was $35 monthly 7 years ago, and it will be going forward as recognition of that workforce. So spread the word if anyone doesn't know, and you know, again, our media outlets have done a wonderful job pushing it so that folks are well informed that they, in the hospitality district, they can park on the roof of any facility for $35, with the exception of our Sumter facility, because there's a lovely pool at the roof of that.
So, Elle, I think it's important that, and nobody really talks about it, but the reality is that the majority of our garages are free from after 7 o'clock till early at 6 in the morning, and on weekends, you can get access to those.
And I was going to piggyback on that. Would that be great to get a list of those? Because I was just sitting here going, wonder what those all are that we could share with our students and ourselves.
A list
Of the garages that are like the mayor was talking about.
Sure. We can.
Okay.
So in our ungated facilities, that would be true. So we can segregate, and you know, maybe that is also something that we can work with the media on pushing out. So if you're at these 4 facilities, You can park for free after 7 p.m. If it's a gated fee or facility, the fees would apply. But we do have a number of ungated facilities you can pull up, and even on Saturday. So you could come down and go to the market, So City, and park in a facility that's ungated at no charge.
That'd be
I can
great,
get that.
that'd be perfect, thank you.
And we did have updates to our owner occupant, the residential permits, the visitors. I'm not going to get in the weeds of all of those things. But Parking Services has diligently worked to keep us on track, to keep all of this smooth, seamless as possible. Tori Salvant is the Deputy Director. We work closely to ensure that we're ready to go on March 1st and to keep the public informed as best possible. Any other questions that I can answer?
Thank you, El.
We appreciate everyone's business on behalf of Parking Services.
I'm going to invite our students to come sit up at the table real quick. As I said, last meeting we were talking about what we wanted to talk about, and at one point someone brought up, shouldn't we hear from the students about their parking and transportation experience? So while they're getting settled, this is what that smart card looks like. I myself have a debit card, but I love this smart card.
Thank you.
Because it's really easy for me to just plug and play and park and, yeah, no, try not to lose something else. So with that, I'm going to welcome our two students. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I'm a huge advocate of telling us who you are and what you want to do. And so I'll pass it over to both of you.
Hi everyone, my name is Reese Lycan. I'm a senior chemistry student at the University of South Carolina. I'm originally from Lexington, Kentucky, so I grew up living right next to UK's campus, so it's been fun to kind of see the differences between there and here at USC.
Hi, good morning. I'm Kenya Rodriguez. I'm actually at Midland Seneca College. I'll be graduating in the spring with my second associate's degree in business. My first one was in business and science, and this one's going to be business and arts. And I pretty much grew up in Lexington County, so I'm very familiar with between Lexington and Columbia.
Awesome, and we're going to tell them thank you for coming and bravely sharing their experiences with this room because you know this is a safe space. So we're going to say it's terrible if it is.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so easy starter question. How do you get to and from campus?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I lived in an on-campus dorm. I did bring my car down. I bought the cheapest lot pass I could through the University of South Carolina. So it was about a mile walk from my dorm. So I didn't drive frequently my freshman year. And since then, I've lived in an apartment that's purposely right next to campus. So most days I'm walking to and from classes. I have a CVS that's within walking distance to me. So I go there frequently. And if I need to go off campus, so if I need to go to a grocery store or a Target or an urgent care or something like that, that's when I would use my car.
I use my personal car, and I have to drive sometimes from Lexington to airport. And then between classes, sometimes I had to run from airport to Beltline, and less than 10 minutes, I had one class that kind of bundled it with another one. So I had to talk to my professors, be like, hey, I'm in class, I'll be getting out right about the time I have to start with you. So I kind of had to struggle between traffic from airport to Beltline. And honestly, by the time I would get to Beltline, parking was almost full until they decided to do the new parking lot in Beltline, where it's closer to the new innovation business building that they did. So that was very, very helpful for me.
So have y'all experienced the woes of the circling for a metered spot before? Does anyone have a personal story?
I don't know that I have a personal story that's interesting enough to share, but I have circled for a meter many times, and once parking a meter that was bagged and I was towed. That was not one of my better days, but.
I have, since I'm always more like into the Lexington area coming into Columbia, trying to figure out where I can park from what time do I have to put a certain amount of coins. Obviously, I had to do some digging information. I ended up actually calling one of my friends, hey, you're in the Columbia area, how do I work this thing? Because I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not trying to get told either.
Messaging is key. What would your ideal commute to campus look like? Say you were at UK, or say you were in Atlanta. We are not Atlanta by any means. But would you want to drive your personal vehicle? Would you want more public transit? Would you want more walkability? What's your ideal commute look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Especially because it's a little warmer down here, I love the walkability of USC's campus. If that is an option for me, I will always take it. If I felt like there were cheaper parking options that weren't, that would be more open throughout the day, I think I would have looked into moving into more of like a residential neighborhood in Columbia for my junior and senior year of college. I think I would have appreciated feeling a little bit more removed from campus, so I think that my kind of ideal commute would have been split between my freshman and sophomore, my junior and senior years.
I feel like if I had to, I would probably, if I knew a group of people that I have to meet up with, just probably meet up in a place where it's free parking, where it's not near Columbia, and just kind of all drive the same car and split the payment. That way it's not a burden for all of us.
Awesome. I'm going to ask one more question and then turn it over to our awesome team out here listening. What factors influence your decision to use public transportation or not in Columbia?
A big one for me is safety. I love the bus routes that are available. Sometimes I don't feel like the bus stops are necessarily the safest place, especially if I'm leaving early in the morning or coming back at night. How much of that are my own fears and how much of that is reality is maybe another question. But as far as bus systems, it's probably the biggest one. I know myself and a lot of my friends use Ubers somewhat frequently, and I feel like that's a safe option. I've loved especially Columbia's initiatives in the last 4 years of making sure Ubers are a safe option, but that is a pricier one for sure.
I'll piggyback to what she said also, definitely into that, but also health concerns, especially with all the viruses going around. I have asthma, so I'm constantly using hand sanitizers and everything, and every time you ride a bus, you don't know who all is sick, and then viruses kind of spread. So my fear is honestly health concerns more than anything.
Awesome. Does anyone out here have any questions from a student perspective? And we also have a couple of students in the audience, so if there's anything you'd like to add, this is the perfect time.
So this question is really towards Reese. So you were talking about transportation and specifically the bus stops. Is this the comment or is this USC transportation system?
I think what I'm referring to is probably more the comment. USCPD has, made a lot of great efforts to make sure that their transportation systems are safe. At some point, USC's campus is kind of interspread with parts of Columbia. There's only, so much you can do sometimes. And again, if it's early in the morning or if it's late at night, it's always going to feel a little unsafe, even if that's not really the reality.
Right. And then another question. You said you Uber a lot throughout the city. And I'm imagining, because I also go to USC too, that you do sometimes hang out at 5 Points, but we'll keep that in mind. But so let me ask you this. Have you done student rides or safe rides by chance?
I have done safe rides. And for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a big kind of messaging system within USC students. I'm not sure if they have this at other colleges. And students will offer personal rides to other students for, $5 or $10 or $15.
Yeah, that was the only question that I had, because it was pretty interesting to hear that, you've had those experiences where you've circled around for parking and unfortunately been towed. I've been there 3 times, don't worry about it. But yeah, I thought your story was pretty interesting, so thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
A major why that you may be going where I'm about to go, because I've recently heard, and I definitely have to help with this, and I'm a USC alum, a USC mom right now as well, but is there another effort with some kind of shuttle hop that I'm hearing, and they're gonna be taking the students into the hospitality districts in the evening?
I was just texting with the parking director for USC, Brian, to follow up with him afterwards about a couple of these things. So you, Marisha, may be able to share.
And if so, we need to know that, I think,
Yes.
with city resources.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I can't believe I haven't mentioned it yet. There is an after-hour shuttle initiative that's launching at the University of South Carolina. That's going to run in between a couple different kind of popular housing spots on campus, and then the Vista area and 5 Points. So the purpose of this is to be safe, reliable transportation for students, I believe Thursday through Saturday, although that might not be correct. Yeah, and so that runs from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. I believe there will be a police officer on board the bus. Students can, get on the bus with their USC ID card. And it's just another alternative to Uber. It's a safer option. I'm really involved in student government. That's something we've been working on for a couple of years. So I haven't actually gotten the chance to use it myself yet, but we're really excited about that.
And there are shuttles from football games. I know I have a freshman student and several of his friends, when you leave a football game, it's crazy, and getting an Uber is near impossible. So they figured out that the shuttle really was a good option. So once they did it one time, it was like, wow, because it's chaos trying to get out. So I know that's been another good thing. You're welcome. Good job, thank you.
Major Williams?
Oh, yes, and thank you, because I was headed to that point, city manager. But the second point I want to just make, and the comment I heard about sometimes, depending on where that bus stops, sometimes it may not be a safe area. And I do understand that's the route that transportation may go. From a safety standpoint, and whether I talk to students, adults, or older people, have that buddy-buddy system best as possible. If you can travel together, if the schedule permits. Also, we're in the technology age. For those that have smartphones, college students, adults, let somebody know when you're about to, head to a destination and when you expect to return. So someone can be looking, just their awareness. Hey, Mr. Hatcher, he hadn't returned back. I'm waiting on him, so that's gonna prompt me to call him. Hey, where you at? Also, and I have 2 kids, and I have to constantly tell them, keep your phones charged. Take a portable charger with you, because the last thing you want is your phone to die. Take a portable charger. So these are just some little safety tips I just wanted to put out there.
You might have to feature these on some different channels for good travel tips.
Amazon has a great pack of them. Santa Claus brought some to my son, so it's good.
Yes, Mr. Worrell.
Yeah, and we appreciate the concerns that you brought up, and as far as safety, if there is, and we work diligently with the Columbia Police Department on the bus stops. If there's something that is of concern, we work with them and address that. Sometimes we have to pull a stop up because of what's going on at a certain bus stop, but we constantly have supervisors out all the time. We have our dispatch that's readily available. If there's any incident on a bus, then we, again, work with Columbia Police Department, CPD, to have somebody there quickly. But the instance of anything happening on a bus, we just don't see. I'm a regular rider, and I did that every place that I've been. I ride the bus, and at first it was, for me, it was, I don't know about this. I'm just getting into public transit. And then once I ride, it's like the passengers, I'm having a birthday party. Why don't you come and come to my birthday party? And I'm like, I've got, unfortunately, other plans going on. But it's that kind of connectivity that you eventually develop with everybody that's on the bus. And the other thing is the cleanliness of the buses. They are cleaned constantly. And we also do deep cleans on the buses, and then we also have a fogging that we put in the machine, or put in the bus that disinfects the buses every day. So, and that lasts for up to a week. So we constantly are addressing the issues and concerns that we hear out in the public. So I appreciate you bringing those two up.
Thank you for sharing that, because honestly, I didn't know, and I'm sure we didn't know, we haven't used public transportation, but I think if that type of information will be known to the students, maybe possibly more students will actually be using the public transportation, because like we stated, our safety is our priority, obviously, and health concerns, obviously. And just knowing that right now really changed like my perspective of, oh, I might actually give it a try, why not, if it's something that is safe. And we did not know that y'all did have those type of inspections on the buses and the routes. So now that I know that, I feel a little more better making a choice to actually use the transportation. So thank you.
And to piggyback on what Mr. Pearl was saying, as far as safety is concerned, there are cameras at the bus shelters.
That's good to know
So they're
too.
always monitored, and there are cameras on the buses. So we're always monitoring what goes on and what can happen. And that actually, mitigates any instances of anything really happening on the buses. I mean, those, we've not had major safety issues.
And that leads us to my final question, to give it back to the mayor.
Well, I wanted to ask a question. I didn't know. Do students have to pay to ride the bus?
It depends. So for USC, they ride USC Transit free, but they have to pay for the regular Comet system. For Midlands Tech, Columbia College, Allen University, and Benedict, they ride the Comet free by showing their ID, because we have pass programs with them.
So with the funding sources that we have going for, can we make it where it's seamless? Because to me, I think that's one step that if we could take out and make for students in Richland 1, Richland 2, all of our students that are in higher learning, having where their ID could be their ticket, that may help increase some of the ridership, with also sharing, hey, our buses are safe, there are cameras there, we have the stations, they're monitored. The disinfection, I didn't know that either, which is a great point to remember, especially in today, as we're seeing increases of flu and other airborne sicknesses out there. So, that'd be a great thing to look at as y'all plan here for the future, is how do we make it seamless, and then how do we share that with the students? Because I think the more ridership we get, obviously the better the route systems get, and maybe micro-transit becomes part of that discussion, where we got shorter commute runs in town. I'd love to hop on the bus and just, run here and there when you're downtown, much like the soda connector got people doing, the soda cap, getting people to go around to different places for lunch and all that. But making sure, because one of the things that we hear from our college students especially is they want to be more connected with the community. They want to be able to experience, they want to get out of their 6-block bubble. So the easier we make it, because parking is a challenge. And so if you're at USC or you're at Allen or Benedict and you parked your car, the last thing you want to do is have to get back in your car, because usually when you come back, your parking space is gone. So you've lost a parking space and then you're having to park somewhere else. So if we can make it easier to get people around, I think it'll increase restaurant sales, it'll increase retail sales, it'll create activity. So we ought to look into that.
Well, we're already doing it though. With Richland 1, Richland 2, and Lexridge 5, we have pass programs with them as well as some of the businesses like Prison Health, like USC.
I think we got to just keep promoting it.
Yeah.
And that's another initiative, and Mayor, I'm glad you brought that up, is with the renewal of the penny, one of the initiatives, another initiative is to develop a pass program. So whether that is 55 and older, 60 and older, or does that go down to the workforce development also, somebody just graduating, whether that's from college or from high school, that they get into the workforce. So here's we have this pass program initiative set up. It may go feed into what you're talking about as well.
I mean, in an ideal world, we wouldn't charge at all for public transit. It would be free. and allow the resources that are brought. I mean, in an ideal world, that's where we would head and really push people to utilize this system, because the benefit would be great for all of us, but well, hopefully we'll get there in a couple of years.
May I add something though?
Yeah.
The operative word is ideal. We tried doing just en masse, fare-free around COVID, and it created safety concerns with some of the people who were, not all, but a subset of the people who were unhoused, starting fights and making the system unsafe, where our people who normally ride begged us to start charging again. So
Interesting.
that's the dichotomy that we have against.
Good point.
I can say from a student perspective with the comment, there's been a lot of requests from students to the University of South Carolina to start providing options for students to reach, specifically grocery stores, superstores, things like that. And that's something that Parking Services at USC has expressed that they would be interested in. So if there's a way that the comment can work with USC so you're not just having to provide, free bus rides to all, I think that there's probably a middle ground there that, I don't want to speak for the university, but that they might be interested in reaching.
Great.
If you have any information with regards to the PASS program, or we're happy to do posters in the parking services offices, let's partner, and if we can help promote that for you, we're happy to do so.
And that's the perfect gateway to my final question for our students, and thank you so much, is what is the best way to share information? Because similarly to y'all saying, if I would have known about that, the Mayor's Collegiate Engagement Council says the same thing. It's almost like we need this, and then we say we have this, and it's like a light bulb. What's the best way to reach students, not just through your school?
I feel like social media, honestly. Social media, everybody's on social media. So if we can get it out there, obviously in the college's platforms, for us in Midlands Tech is D2L. Our marketing system is actually really, really good at expressing everything that's new. So we're constantly seeing the same info every single time. So it will be easier if it was shared through social media, and on top of that, really enforce it in the universities. So it will really get to everybody and not someone being like, well, I kind of missed it. There's no way that they will miss it. So.
Yeah, definitely social media, and then something else I think is important to keep in mind is, when sometimes I pull up to a parking meter or a garage and I'm trying to find information on what are the hours, and they're enforcing ticketing and such. It's sometimes really hard to find that information easily online. Like if I'm trying to type in information on parking in Columbia, maybe this is just my error and I'm not searching correctly, but yeah.
It's not, you're right.
Yeah, it's difficult to find, and so it would be nice to kind of have a more almost on-demand answer as well.
I have a question. Do either of you follow either the Comet or City of Columbia on their social media channels?
Yes.
I do in Columbia, yes.
Do you follow the Comet on social media?
No.
I don't believe so.
Okay, that's why you don't.
Got you 2 followers right there.
Come on, join us.
Perfect. Well, thank y'all so much. We'll be sending you a thank you for coming and sharing your Okay, Mayor, back to you.
Well, that brings us, as we're getting close to the end here, our spring meeting will be May 15th at the University of South Carolina. President Amaritas will be our host. Our top topic there will be student and neighborhood safety, also talking about move out and code enforcement, talking about dumpster placements, all of those type of things. We also want to think about, are there any challenges or topics that we should prepare for as well? So, put your input in. I think it'll be very important for us to make sure that we continue to feed all the questions and opportunities there, but also address problems. I mean, this group really here is to help bring solutions across boards. Does anybody want to share anything about what's going on at their school or their business or their neighborhood while we're here today?
When is the next meeting?
May 15th.
And Mayor, we'll provide speaking of parking information for y'all, where we'll end up being, and the meeting is going to be in Hamilton on the campus, so we'll share all that with y'all.
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, if anybody would like to ride a bus that has not ridden the bus, please see Pam or me, and we will send a pass out to you.
Take them up on it,
Uh,
President.
Yes, at Columbia College, you may not realize, only those of you who are deeply engaged in the health of our community will understand that 29203, the area code in which you are currently sitting, is a place that has extraordinary promise, but also has extraordinary challenge. And the challenge, one of the big ones, is that this zip code has the highest rate of diabetic amputations in the nation, not just in our state, in our nation. We also have the highest density of poverty here in the 29203 zip code. Now, Columbia College, up until about 4 years ago, was a women's college, and so there were both physical and invisible barriers around our campus for obvious reasons. Since we've become an all-gender institution, we're starting to think differently about our relationship with our community. And instead of just being in this community, really being a part of this community. And in that regard, one of the things that we're going to be focusing on is helping this community to address the health and wellness concerns that we all have for this community, as it relates certainly for our students and our internal community, as well as how that looks and extends outside of the community. April 4th and 5th, Columbia College is going to be hosting a Run, Walk, and Roll 5K. And we'll be getting information out about that. The spirit and intention of that is to bring folks into understanding about what are the things that we can do to mitigate or eradicate diabetes and heart disease. So your attention to that, we'll be sending all that information out to you, City of Columbia, and to our other campus partners. Look, we're not trying to suggest here that we are the white knight or we're the ivory tower institution on a hill here relative to solving these problems. It's going to take partnership. And there are a number of organizations that are already working fervently on this issue here in the 209-203 community. We're just trying to bring attention, focus, and combined efforts so that we can all help in addressing this issue for this community, absolutely, but also so that we can mitigate this for our communities more broadly. So April 4th and 5th, the 5th is actually the walk, run, and roll 5K. But there will be a number of events that are leading up to that with our community and community presidents. So thank you for that.
Mayor, if I may, to all of the students, thank you for your comments. They're greatly appreciated. Two of the goals, strategic goals for the city's parking division in 2025 is communication and customer service. Real quick, if you wanted to see something improve or change with regards to the city's parking system, what might come to mind? What recommendations would you have for the parking division?
Start at one end and move on down.
Yeah, I think what I mentioned earlier, specifically online,
Yeah, we'll
like
catch up after.
information, if there was just one spot where I could see a list of, garages, meters, hours, at least for my grade, I think that
On
would
an
be-
app?
Honestly, no.
No.
On a website,
On a
sometimes it's kind
website?
of frustrating to have to download and figure out another app. It's almost easier to just do it online.
So FAQs, frequently asked questions, the main things you need to know.
Yeah.
At your fingertips.
Thank you.
I agree with her, but opposite of that, have a visual more than anything, because if there is anybody, it could be me, it could be somebody else, they don't know how the parking system works, so just knowing the hours they can park, the hours that they can't park, and the fees, that would be very helpful.
Would electronic signage being out in main corridor saying, hey, Lincoln Street Garage has X amount of spaces open, or something like that, would that be beneficial?
That would be good, yeah, because I personally don't know every single parking place there is, so knowing where I can park around Columbia makes it more accessible for me to know where I can park and how long distance I have to take
USC just rolled out a new app a few months ago. Brian and I spoke about that yesterday. I'm very interested. It seems to be well received. Similar to Waze, it's the data is input by those using the app. I mean, I have the app also. He
Brought some of those ideas that came from LSU, and they use this app there, so they're still trying to get,
And doing just some of that. So if you're here, it's going to tell you your parking options.
I did that like on check-in day, move-in day for my son, and it would say you're 17 minutes behind. And it was a really cool app. I don't know how to use it well, but I think we'll get there.
That's great feedback. Okay.
I would really second what both of these other students had said. The claim that everyone is on social media is not true. I personally am not on social media, so using that as a method of communication is not going to reach everyone. It may reach what would be, quote unquote, the average student population, or what is becoming the average population, but it's not going to reach everyone. So I would agree that using social media is beneficial, but also using a website or other online method would also be very beneficial, just to get communication out, if that is one of your main focuses, which it should be. In any situation, the communication needs to be seamless, it needs to be consistent, and it needs to be accurate. So I also think that additional signage would be helpful, just to know, because I attend Columbia College. I'm not often in downtown Columbia on USC's campus that is integrated into downtown. So sometimes it can be hard for me to navigate where I'm going, where I'm supposed to be going, just because I'm not used to that, I'm not exposed to it as much. So that would be helpful for me personally. I do think, I was just telling someone earlier, I do think Columbia does a fairly good job of parking situations and maintaining information, but I do think it would be helpful to have a more seamless method, possibly online, and additional signage.
If I could add, I was at the State House the other day, and there's all these parking spaces that have been removed. All on I think it's Pendleton.
Sumter and Pendleton, at the request of the state.
Well, and that's fine. I'm just saying, though, that now that they're gone, that you have to go somewhere. And when it's in session like right now, who knew? So just having knowledge of where you could park is like major. And I also want to, again, lift up that collaborating with the neighborhood associations would reduce. I mean, we love seeing you, but I also know that you have a lot going on and a lot of places to be. So strategically visiting, but allowing us to assist you in what you're trying to do by putting information in the hands of people that don't have access to technology and to social media would be a way to assist you in what you're doing.
Thank you.
I also think, sorry. Sometimes the snowball effect is more helpful than I think we give it credit for. And if you were able to reach a small pocket of students and just, maybe literally take them on a Comet ride or show them, here's our parking options. They're gonna go back, they're gonna tell their friends, they're gonna tell their roommates, and their classmates, hey, we have these great affordable options. And I think maybe starting small could help to your point about not everyone using social media.
We could do a walkabout on how to avoid a barnacle. How about that? So if you don't want a barnacle on your vehicle, you don't want to be towed, we could do a walkabout. Yeah, that's great feedback.
So at one time, we used to have town halls with USC, student government, but those stopped. I don't know.
We actually have a meeting coming up with the president and the mayor in February, so we're still, that group of the student government is meeting, and I know that parking is high on their priority list, so this is great timing.
Parking, lighting, and housing.
Yeah, so those are the, 3 things, so that's actually, I think, February 11th, 12th coming up with them. So that group is, and they're actually coming to city council on the 18th to be recognized for and give their report of student concerns. So.
But that was helpful for us to get feedback from the voices of the students.
Right.
And say, this is what we need, this is what we need to know, and things like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can probably do a better job of, reaching you all as well as saying, hey, here are some suggestions or concerns. I understand it shouldn't always be all the time.
So, I think that's kind of what this format
Any other
Did you have
comments?
anything? Our frequent customer?
Well, hello again. But yeah, absolutely, I agree with Reese saying the snowball effect works. I mean, I personally do have 3 friends that go on the comment, and they do tell me that they have different experiences, each time, but that's what makes the comment to them. But in a good way, but I will also say in regards to parking, what would I like to see and what would I can assume the majority of other students would like to see as well. Just straight to the facts, FAQs. I guess the signage, of course, would help because I know I can't see, especially with my glasses, and I know that it's hard to look for a small decal that's saying, parking, head-in, parking only, max parking 30 minutes, max parking an hour, and so on and so forth. And then maybe something to explain the Passport app that we have, because a lot of students that I've run into, they know what Passport is, but only because they've gone up right to it, and then when it comes down to, trying to find extra money in their funds to afford to go on the app instead of trying to look for quarters, well, only quarters now, right? For only quarters, they're now gonna have to script and try to go throughout their bank account.
Sure.
And if
because
they're
actually-
smart, they'd hook it up to their parents' credit card or bank account.
Yeah.
That house one time was not well received.
That's a
Well, I
great
can
point.
tell-
If you set up a wallet within Passport, they actually give you a discount. So if you set up a wallet and, put money in versus pay as you go, they discount, so you actually get more bang for your buck.
Okay.
I have that listed. Thank you for that.
I didn't know that. Something we need to put out there. Pad your wallet.
I was gonna say in closing, my grandson is 17 now, and when he left Columbia to move to Sheboygan, Wisconsin, in order to get to his school now, he has to take a public bus. He would never ride the bus when he was here. So I'm glad to hear all this because he keeps trying to get back here. I'm not sure if he will, but at the end of the day, he'll be taking a bus. He'll be introduced to Comet and all that we discussed here.
And that's one of the things that I did, being in public transit. When my kids were younger, I introduced them to riding the bus, so they knew from an early age. And then when they went off to college, they called me, I'm in this apartment, how do I get the bus? So they utilize the bus system where they're at. My son is at College Station, and my oldest daughter is at IU in Bloomington, Indiana.
Yes.
So
I'm a Hoosier.
same here. So they learn early on to take public transit, and it's worked well for them because they utilize that now while they're in college.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I'm not a labor and paving, and I don't know if this has come up already at the first meeting. I know the next meeting will be after this deadline, but was there the intention that the ITGA conference be attended this year? I know for years, I'm an oldie but goodie now in the city, so in our former roles, we always were trying to get this right here going. So I'm so excited that Mayor Rickman has taken the ball and ran with it, where you actually have this level of participation. But in the olden days, we had always thought we would have a contingency from Columbia, South Carolina, going to the International Town and Gown Association conferences. And from my understanding, with the emails I still get, the early bird registration deadline is at the end of this month. So knowing that we won't meet again, and knowing that, I think it'll be wonderful if the students actually got to participate if they wanted to, and it was a mixed contingency. So I'm probably over-speaking, Kate, because I know y'all already thought about this, but I was just curious if that's the intention.
So, a little bit of background, before we formed the Columbia group, we actually, Columbia, South Carolina, and USC, and a couple other institutions have been members for decades. I know the city of Columbia has, and so we actually went, and when I tell you sensorily overload, all the higher ed institutions in cities that we are competing with, might be the right word, were present. And me and Krista were like, okay, we're the underdogs, even though our membership's been here a while. All of the panels were really focused towards higher ed institutions, a little bit of government, code enforcement, how to stop kids from drinking, which is always a struggle, I'm assuming, in any town. Beyond that, we talked about, so this year's is in Akron, Ohio. We're gonna share that information, but since y'all all joined, some of the higher ed institutions joined this year, making sure y'all are getting those newsletters, number one, we'll follow up on. But number two, if you want to have a Columbia cohort to go, we should do that. Number two, planning for next year to have the full cohort go, was me and Krista's kind of strategic outlook, start pulling you in as new members, and then take this whole group of higher ed, businesses, students, ourselves next year with proper planning for budgeting, because I do know we're all on different budget cycles. And so I will still share the Akron, Ohio information if you did not get it yourselves, but as members, I know all of our higher ed institutions did. And we will be looking forward to, when we meet in May, already planning for the next year. So whenever your budget cycle ends, you can plan.
Great. Any other comments or questions? If not, my thanks to Mr. President for hosting us over here at the Fighting Koala compound.
It's always our pleasure.
As you remind us, you are Columbia's college.
We are Columbia. Thank you. I didn't have to say that. We are Columbia's college. Columbia College, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that.
Thank y'all for being here, and we'll have follow-up. You'll share that information to make sure those who want to sign up. It'd be great maybe if USC and some of the other schools, and we ought to figure out how we could get a neighborhood representative sent as well to join in. That'd be a great thing. Thank y'all. Thank you very much for being here, y'all.
Yes. Thank you all.